Moving on to the final method of cycling techniques that are to be done in combination with the indirect and deferred method of phase entry, which is essentially where you want to utilize the natural awakenings that occur while you're sleeping, preferably later in the nights, like, after 6 hours or so. Then you immediately try to fall back asleep, and then while you're falling back asleep is when you want to be implementing these various techniques that we've been going through. Basically, you try one for like 3 to 5 seconds. If it works and you're in the phase, aka a lucid dream, astral projection, OBE, then perfect, you're all good. However, if it doesn't work, you don't get into the phase, you're still wide awake, then you drop that specific technique and you go to another one, try that for 3 to 5 seconds, and you keep going through that cycle until you hit about a minute. If you've been doing this for about a minute and you haven't entered the phase and you're still wide awake, basically just drop everything, relax, go back to sleep as you typically would, with the intention of trying again upon your next awakening. So we've already went through 5 of these techniques. There's one more. But really, I would probably count this more as like 3 that we went through so far, because we did observing images and visualization, which is split into 2 different ones. But personally, I would probably just combine that into one. Then we have phantom wiggling and imagined movement, which are separated, but I would probably combine those into one. And then you have rotation, which is, for me, is more like tilting than rotating, because I can't seem to do like a full 360. But nonetheless, tilting works good enough for me. And then the final one we'll be doing is listening in. So I don't have too much experience with this specific technique, so I'll just basically read through it. I'll chime in with my 2 cents here and there where I can, and yeah, we'll wrap this thing up. So, listening in. Immediately after waking from sleep, remain motionless, eyes closed. Try to listen to noise in your head. Do this for 3 to 5 seconds without moving and without opening the eyes. If nothing happens during this period of time, switch to another technique. If any sound like buzzing, humming, raving, hissing, whistling, tinkling, or melodies occur, listen attentively. With results, the sound will increase in volume. Listen in as long as there is some dynamism in the volume of the sound. When the sound stops or the noise becomes loud enough, a separation technique may be attempted. Sometimes the noise itself throws one into the phase while listening. At a certain stage, sounds may be extremely loud and have been described as comparable to the roar of a jet engine. The action of listening in consists of actively and attentively exploring a sound, the whole of its tonality and range, and how it reacts to the listener. There is an optional technique known as forced listening in, where it is simply necessary to strongly want to hear noise and meanwhile make intuitive internal efforts, which, as a rule, are correct. Okay, I'm pretty sure I read that right. Doesn't totally make sense to me. It's working out my dyslexic brain pretty hard there. But also, like, this book was not written in English at first. It's been translated into a whole bunch of different languages. And so I have been finding like various just straight up typos in here. And then you have some kind of weirdly written sentences like that one that I think probably make more sense in Russian. I think the guy's from Russia. I kind of forget on that. But anyway, let's keep going. So, performed correctly, forced sounds will intensify the same way as those perceived with the standard listening in technique. Okay, so for training. In order to practice listening in, lie down in a silent place, eyes closed, and listen for sounds originating in the head. These attempts are usually crowned with success within several minutes of trying, and one starts to hear that noise that absolutely everyone has within. One simply has to know how to tune into it. Man, having a hard time reading. Anyway, so that will pretty much wrap it up. The only time I actually really use listening in, or actually even get like audible, liminal dream type experiences, really only happens to me when I'm extremely sleep deprived. So, very rarely happens in that sense. I gotta be like going hard and barely sleeping for like a couple days in a row or something. But the way this normally comes into effect for me is when I'm dealing with insomnia. Then as I get like, towards the later end of my insomnia and I actually am getting closer to sleep, that's when I can get like these different audible kind of hallucinations, if you want to call it that, kind of right on that edge of falling asleep. But anyway, yeah, that will wrap it up. And until the next video, keep your phase practice legit.